welcome to another episode of the Chaos Chronicles. I'm Jess, and I'm back again today with little Miss Ruby, who is taking a nap on the chair. And we are back for another true crime episode. Today we're going to be covering Elisa Lam's case. But before I dive into that, make sure that you are subscribed to all of our social media platforms. I do have them linked down below. And our email is also down there, so feel free to say hi, or if you have any topic suggestions, feel free to send them our way. Some trigger warnings for this episode. We will be talking about mental health, suicide, and death. Elisa Lam was born on April 30th of 1991 in Vancouver, British Columbia. Elisa was described as being a bright, creative, and adventurous young woman. She was a student at the University of British Columbia, where she studied psychology. She loved writing and actually kept an active Tumblr blog where she shared her thoughts on life, mental health, travel, and pop culture. Her writing was honest, sometimes funny, and showed someone who was deeply introspective. Friends and family described her as someone who lit up a room. She was outgoing, loved fashion, and had a playful, quirky sense of humor. She was the kind of person who would strike up a conversation with strangers and was always looking for new experiences. But Elisa also had struggles of her own. She had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder and was open about her challenges with depression and anxiety. She took medication to help manage her condition, and from what we know, she was trying to live a full life despite these difficulties. In her blog posts, she was candid about good days and bad days. Before we do continue into this case, I want to take a second to talk about bipolar disorder. I feel like bipolar is one of those disorders that does get thrown around quite often and a lot of times isn't used correctly. There might be a lot of confusion revolving around that. And I believe that it's important to have a baseline understanding of what this disorder is, because this is something that is talked about in this case. So the information that I got about bipolar disorder is coming directly from the Mayo Clinic's website, and I did just kind of copy and paste this over. So we are reading directly from that site right now. Bipolar disorder, formerly called manic depression, is a mental health condition that causes extreme mood swings. These include emotional highs known as mania or hypomania, and lows known as depression. Hypomania is extreme. Hypomania is less extreme than mania. When you become depressed, you may feel sad or hopeless and lose interest or pleasure in most activities. When your mood shifts to mania or hypomania, you may feel very excited and happy or euphoric, full of energy, or unusually irritable. These mood swings can affect sleep, energy, activity, judgment, behavior, and the ability to think clearly. Episodes of mood swings from depression to mania may occur rarely or multiple times a year. Each bout usually lasts several days. And between episodes, some people have long periods of emotional stability. Others may frequently have mood swings from depression to mania or both depression and mania at the same time. There are several types of bipolar and related disorders. So bipolar 1 disorder is you've had at least one manic episode that may come before or after hypomania or cause major depressive episodes. In some cases, mania may cause a break from reality. This is called psychosis. Bipolar 2 disorder, you've had at least one major depressive episode and at least one hypomaniac episode, but you've never had a manic episode. Cyclothymia, you've had at least 2 years or 1 year in children and teenagers of many periods of hypomania symptoms and periods of depressive symptoms. These symptoms are less severe than major depression. Other types include bipolar and related disorders caused by certain drugs or alcohol, or due to medical conditions such as Cushing's disease, multiple sclerosis, or strokes. These types may include mania or hypomania, which is less extreme than mania, and depression. Symptoms can cause changes in mood and behavior that cannot be predicted. Bipolar 2 disorder is not a milder form of bipolar 1 disorder. It is a separate diagnosis. While the manic episode of bipolar 1 disorder can be severe and dangerous, people with bipolar 2 disorder can be depressed for longer periods of time. Bipolar disorder can start at any age, but it's usually diagnosed in the teen years or early 20s. Symptoms can differ from person to person, and symptoms may vary over time. Mania and hypomania are different, but they have the same symptoms. Mania is more severe than hypomania. It causes more noticeable problems at work, school, and social activities, as well as getting along with others. Mania also may cause a break from reality known as psychosis. Manic and hypomanic episodes include 3 or more of the following symptoms: being much more active, energetic, or agitated than usual, feeling a distorted sense of well-being or too self-confident, needing much less sleep than usual, being unusually talkative and talking fast, having racing thoughts or jumping quickly from one topic to another, being easy to distract, and making poor decisions. Major depressive episodes include symptoms that are severe enough to cause you to have a hard time doing day-to-day activities. These activities include going to work or school, as well as taking part in social activities and getting along with others. An episode includes 5 or more of these symptoms. Having a depressed mood, you may feel sad, empty, hopeless, or tearful. Children and teens who are depressed can seem irritable, angry, or hostile. Having a marked loss of interest or feeling no pleasure in all or almost all activities. Losing a lot of weight when not dieting or overeating and gaining weight. When children don't gain weight as expected, this can be a sign of depression. Sleeping too little or too much, feeling restless or acting slower than usual, being very tired or losing energy, feeling worthless, feeling too guilty or feeling guilty when it's not necessary, having a hard time thinking or concentrating or not being able to make decisions, and thinking about planning or attempting suicide. Other features of bipolar disorder. Some symptoms of bipolar disorder, including depressive episodes, may include other features like anxious distress, when you're feeling symptoms of anxiety and fear that you are losing control, melancholy, when you feel very sad and have a deep loss of pleasure, and psychosis, when your thoughts or emotion disconnect from reality. The timing of symptoms may be described as mixed, when you have symptoms of depression and mania or hypomania at the same time. Rapid cycling, when you have 4 mood episodes in the past year when you switch between mania and hypomania and major depression. Okay, I know that was a lot of medical lingo, terminology just thrown at you, but I felt that it was very important to kind of get a baseline because in this case, it is looked at that she does have bipolar disorder. So I just wanted to make sure that we all at least have a baseline idea of kind of what it means. And now we're getting back to the case. In January of 2013, Elisa was 21 years old at the time, decided to take a solo trip down the west coast of the United States. This wasn't completely out of character for her, as she enjoyed traveling and wanted adventure. She documented parts of the trip on social media. She visited San Diego first and then headed to Los Angeles. On January 26, 2013, she checked into the Cecil Hotel in downtown LA, which was a budget-friendly spot that also operated as a hostel for younger travelers. She was originally placed in a shared room with other guests, but she later complained to the hotel staff about issues with her roommates and was moved to a private room. At this point, Everything seemed relatively normal for a solo traveler. She visited local attractions, took photos, and kept in touch with her family. That was until the end of the month. On January 31st, Elisa stopped responding to messages. Her parents grew worried when days passed with no contact. On February 1st, they reported her missing to the Los Angeles Police Department. Now, this case ended up exploding into the public's eye. But it wasn't just because a 21-year-old went missing. A couple weeks later, police released an elevator surveillance video from January 31st, the last time that Elisa was definitely seen alive. Now, before we get into the footage, and I will be showing some clips from that, I want to talk about the Cecil Hotel. I thought that it was just a typical hotel when I started doing this case. But the Cecil Hotel opened in 1924 and was known to be a respectable establishment for business travelers. But over the decades, as downtown LA changed, the hotel's clientele shifted and it became known to house outcasts, people struggling with addiction, mental illness, and poverty. Tragically, the building has been the site of dozens of deaths ranging from suicides, murders, and unexplained cases. And there were even 2 notorious serial killers to use this hotel, one of which we have covered on this channel. It was one of my other solo episodes, Richard Ramirez, or also known as the Night Stalker. So you can go check that one out if you would like. And then another one that I have not yet covered, Austrian killer Jack Utenweger in 1991, and I have just finished the outline for that episode. So at this time, I have currently not recorded it yet, but it is coming soon, so stay tuned. By 2013, the hotel had tried to rebrand itself as Stay on Main to attract backpackers and tourists like Elisa, but its reputation still lingered. This context matters because when a young woman vanishes inside a building with this kind of history, people ask more questions. After checking in on January 26th, Elisa spent a few days exploring Los Angeles. She visited bookstores, took photos, and seemed to be enjoying her solo adventure. She was sharing in a shared hostel-style room initially, like I said, but then went to hotel staff, complained about roommates. We really don't know what the complaint was about. And then she was moved onto a private room on the 14th floor. And then on January 31st, 2013, the last day she was seen alive, Elisa was scheduled to check out, but never did. Her family hadn't heard from her in several days, reported her missing on February 1st, and the LAPD began searching. But for nearly 2 weeks, there was nothing really that they found. And then on February 13th, police released this surveillance footage from one of the hotel's elevators, and that was time-stamped on January 31st. And now we are going to pull up the footage here. I'll also be linking the video as well as my sources in the description, so if you guys want to read more or watch this video for yourself, you can go and find that. All right, so we can see Elisa coming in here and she is pressing a whole bunch of buttons. Doesn't look like all of them. Obviously, it's staticky here. So we can't see. It's a little blurry. And then she's looking out like she's looking for someone. The doors aren't closing. She's pressing herself up against the wall and then into the corner like she's hiding from someone. And then you can see her look again. It's like she's waiting for someone. It looks like she's kind of frightened here. And an odd thing that people have been pointing out, and even I'm noticing, is this elevator door is not closing. Like, she is out in the hallway. Obviously, with how blurry the video is, we can't tell, if that was her doing or if something was wrong with the elevator. And then she does come back in. It's looking like she's pressing more buttons, pressing even more buttons. And then she goes back out in the hall. Not sure what the hand gestures are about. Maybe some people are speculating that she was in an episode where she was hallucinating or seeing things that aren't there, talking to people that aren't there. She might be having auditory hallucinations as well. But then again, the doors. So that is the video, but the door is never closed. And that seems very odd. Again, not sure if that was her doing, because you can stop the elevator doors from closing, but we obviously can't see if that is what she did or not. So during that video, like I was saying, some people are suggesting that it was a clear sign that she was in a manic episode. And there were also others that believed that she could be playing an elevator game, which was a paranormal ritual. I remember briefly hearing about this. I would have been in high school at this time. So I probably saw it on social media or something, but I never did it. None of my friends ever did it. I didn't know anybody that did it. It's this paranormal elevator game, and it has some names like Elevator to Another World or Elevator Ritual. And it's an urban legend that originated in Korea and gained popularity online after Elisa Lam's death in 2013. The elevator game is a supposed ritual that's designed to transport the player to a parallel dimension or another world by following a precise sequence of button presses in an elevator. It's often compared to other ritual games like Bloody Mary or Three Kings. Basically, a spooky story, but with strict rules meant to protect the player from dangerous entities. It has standard rules, and those are: you must play alone in a building with at least 10 floors and an elevator that can access all of the floors. The game must be done at night or when the building is quiet. And I actually found the step by steps. So to begin, first step, enter the elevator alone and press the button for the fourth floor. When the doors open on the fourth floor, press 2. On the second floor, press 6. On the sixth floor, press 2. On the second floor, press 10, or the highest floors, I guess, in some versions. On the sixth floor, press 5. And then when the elevator reaches the fifth floor, a woman may enter. Do not look at her. Do not speak to her. She may try to talk to you or lure you. Ignoring her is critical. Press the button for the first floor. If the elevator starts going up instead of down, you have succeeded in entering the other world. When the doors open on the other side, you may see a completely different version of the building or surreal surroundings. Explore at your own risk. To return, you must use the same elevator and repeat a specific sequence, often pressing 1, then returning to your original floor. Some versions warn that failing to follow the return rules will trap you. Some key warnings for this legend is: never speak to or acknowledge the woman on the 5th floor. If other people enter the elevator at any point, except the woman, the game is canceled and you have to start over. and then looking back or breaking the rules can result in being haunted, attacked, or trapped. Per the footage that we saw, this clearly isn't following the rules because she was pressing a whole bunch of buttons. I'm not sure, but it is something that some people are speculating that she could have been doing. Some people are speculating that if she was playing the games and she saw the woman and that's who she was hiding from. I don't know. Also, not encouraging anybody to do that. I don't know if it's real. I would never test it out. I will never suggest that anybody test it out. So the only thing that we do know for certain is once she walked out of the elevator, she was never seen alive again. Her personal belongings were later found in her hotel room, including her medication, and the bottles suggested that she may not have been taking her bipolar medications consistently in the days leading up to her disappearance. For nearly 3 weeks, her family was desperately searching for her. The LAPD conducted interviews, reviewed more footage, and searched the hotel and surrounding areas, but despite their efforts, there was no sign of her. Between February 1st and February 19th, the hotel continued to operate as normal. Guests came and went. Then, on February 19th, 2023, 19 days after Elisa was seen, complaints started pouring in from multiple floors. Guests reported that the water pressure was extremely low. Others said that the water coming out of their tap had an odd, foul smell and strange discoloration. Some described it as blackish or even rusty. A maintenance worker was sent up to the roof to investigate the hotel's 4 large industrial water tanks. These tanks supplied water to the guest rooms. They sit on the rooftop, each one several feet tall and wide enough for a person to fit inside. The maintenance worker climbed the ladder, opened one of the tanks, and found floating inside the water the body of a young woman. She was naked. Her clothes, including the red hoodie she wore in the elevator video, were also found in the tank with her. The body was badly decomposed after nearly 3 weeks in the water, and the body was later positively identified as Elisa Lam. The discovery immediately raised more questions than answers, like how did Elisa get onto the roof in the first place? The door to the roof was supposedly locked and alarmed. Even if she did have access to it, though, how did she manage to climb into one of these heavy and secured water tanks? The lids were not easy to open, and there were no obvious signs of forced entry, and there wasn't even a ladder left behind. And just so you guys can visualize these tanks, I will also pop in a picture so you guys can see that. The discovery of Elisa's body turned a missing person case into a full-blown international mystery. News outlets around the world picked up the story, largely because that elevator video had already gone viral at this point, and people were obsessed. There were so many theories that had exploded online, and those were ranging from everything from murder to ghost to government conspiracies. And if you want to see them, go on Reddit. Go on Reddit and you can just scroll for a long, long, long time. Once Elisa's body was discovered on February 19th, LAPD and the coroner's office launched a more intensive investigation. Detectives interviewed hotel staff, reviewed additional security footage, and searched Elisa's hotel room. They found her personal belongings, including her clothes, identification, and medication bottles. Notably, the bottles suggested that she had not been taking her full prescribed doses consistently in the days before her disappearance. The roof access door was examined. While it was supposed to be locked and equipped with an alarm, investigators determined that it was possible to reach the roof through other means, including a fire escape or unsecured areas. The water tank itself had a heavy lid, but it was not padlocked at the time, and it would have required significant effort for someone to climb in, especially alone. Now, the big question everyone wanted to know was, how did she end up in that tank? The autopsy performed shortly after the discovery could not immediately determine the exact cause of death. There were no major external injuries that pointed to homicide, no clear defensive wounds, no sign of sexual assault. The body had been in the water for an extended period of time, though, which complicated this examination. On June 21st, 2013, the Los Angeles County Coroner's Office released the official ruling. Elisa Lam's death was ruled an accidental drowning. Bipolar disorder was listed as a significant contributing factor. The report suggested that Elisa had likely been experiencing a manic or psychotic episode due to her untreated or inconsistently treated mental health condition. In this state, she may have wandered to the roof, climbed into the water tank, possibly seeking the water to cool off or potentially to hide, and accidentally drowned. Now, this conclusion was not without controversy, as I'm sure you guys can imagine. Many people felt that it left too many questions unanswered. People that criticized this ruling pointed out, how did she access the roof and climb into the tank that high without assistance? Her behavior in the elevator, while erratic, didn't look purely random to some observers. The Cecil Hotel's long history of crime and negligence raised suspicions about whether the investigation was thorough enough, and some felt the police and hotel were too quick to close the case. The LAPD found no evidence of foul play, no suspects were ever named, no clear signs of murder were ever uncovered. The case was closed as an accident. However, the story refused to die. The combination of the viral elevator video, the bizarre circumstances of her body's discovery, and the hotel's dark reputation created the perfect storm for some conspiracy theories. The official conclusion is that it's a tragic mental health crisis that led to a terrible accident, but for many, that answer just did not feel complete because it didn't explain the how. I was able to find a few different theories, mostly on Reddit, so let's talk about it. Theory 1 is a mental health crisis, accidental death, which was the official explanation. It's the most evidence-based theory. Elisa has bipolar disorder, and she appears to have been inconsistent with her medication. The elevator video shows classic signs of manic or psychotic episode, erratic movements, confusion, possible hallucinations, or paranoia. In this state, she could have wandered to the roof, perhaps feeling overheated or paranoid, and climbed into the water tank seeking relief or safety. Many people in manic episodes can exhibit superhuman strength or disregard for danger. The second theory is foul play or murder. Many people believed someone harmed Elisa and staged the scene. Suspects that have been speculated online look into hotel staff, other guests, or even a stranger who just followed her. Some arguments for this theory is that it's difficult to access the roof and enter the tank alone. The hotel apparently has a poor reputation for their security measures, and the fact that her clothes were found in the tank with her, some people are speculating why she would be undressed, and possible missed evidence due to the delay in the discovery of her body. And then with that, again, the autopsy didn't find any clear signs of trauma, and there was no other DNA found in there, and there were no witnesses. So LAPD states that they found no evidence of homicide. Theory number 3 goes back to this paranormal elevator game that we talked about, and it's one of the more popular theories, to be honest, which kind of surprised me. So some supporters of this point out that her specific pattern of button pressing, it wasn't just one after another. And you can see when she goes back, she's like pushing different buttons. And then she's hiding and looking around as if she's interacting with someone that we can't see. And then there's also strange behavior of the elevator doors not closing, which again, we don't know if she stopped those doors from closing or if there was something going on with the elevator. But they also say if she broke the rules, like if she were to see the woman and acknowledge the woman, the legend says that terrible things could happen, which would include being trapped or taken. And then some other random ones that I found: supernatural hauntings tied to the Cecil's dark past, potential ghosts of past victims, or demonic influences. Others suggest drug related incidents. There was a toxicology report done. There wasn't anything that came back on that. So that's thrown out, but people still do believe that. Most of these obviously rely more on speculation and the hotel's reputation more than actual evidence. The truth is that we unfortunately will never fully know what happened that night since there are no other surveillance footage that was going on. We probably will not know what fully went down that night. But that is all that I have for today's episode. So thank you so much for hanging out with me and listening to this case. Again, very, very sad and tragic. No matter what happened to her, she still did lose her life. She was a young woman who sounds like had a very promising future. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next week for who knows what. Bye.